Stephen, if I was speaking with Robert Feldman of Morgan Stanley, I would simply describe the urban-rural tension of Japan. Who does Mr. Suga represent?
Well, he's representing right now the factions that are controlled by the big LDP bigwigs, like Taro Aso, the finance minister, like the outgoing Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. You just ran through his bona fides, if you will. But you know what? Suga-san is a backroom brawler. Yeah. He's a power broker. He has the more humble upbringings than some of these blue bloods, but he's a fighter for sure. And look, the big factions within the LDP overwhelmingly gave him the mandate. He was the man they all wanted, and that's really all that matters. This was a LeBron James slam dunk on a kiddie hoop. There was no question that Suga-san was going to win this today.
Well, he may have the support of the leaders, but if we go to an election, what is the mood of the nation to the dominance of the LDP? And after they're a few years out of office, their absolute majority of this political system, are the people behind him?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because initially he was not really even on the radar of the populace. Of course, they knew him as the backroom guy for Shinzo Abe and the Abenomics over the last nearly 8 years. But the popular guy was Shigeru Ishiba. But he came in third in this three-horse race in the LDP. He's popular because he's been a frank critic of Shinzo Abe. He's had more populist appeal among the electorate. But you know what? That didn't matter. As you mentioned, it's the LDP that has the overwhelming majority in the Diet, and that's who they picked was the guy to lead them through with the same platform as Shinzo Abe. The overriding concern right now is the economy. Look, real GDP is now smaller than it actually was when Abe took over in 2012. It's erased all those gains that they saw with increased profitability at corporations, stock rises, boardroom changes took hold. But you know what? Inflation never got anywhere near the 2% target. It's at zero right now. And therefore, wages never got off the ground. And then consumption never got off the ground because we also had a consumption tax increase as well. And we've back into recession. 3 times they've raised the consumption tax, the VAT, since the late 1990s. All 3 times they've had it followed by recession.
Now, Stephen, what can you tell us about how Mr. Suga can actually do to win the hearts of the people? Is it through regulatory reform, or does he just have to do something to, break up some of the vested interests that we've seen in the country?
Well, that's what he's taken on. He's like, if he's going to be a little bit different from Shinzo Abe, maybe he can take on the mantle of structural reform. He's had some more populist messaging of late. He's been outspoken on issues of more competition for the nation's telecom operators. He wants the operators to cut their fees. That appeals to the people who are, having trouble making ends meet right now with the coronavirus lockdowns. He's also a strong proponent of introducing these casino resorts. Of course, Japan modified and approved its casino law, its gaming laws, to allow casinos, and the big guys are all bidding for Japan, but he's been a proponent of that. But he's also, at the same time, he says there's too many regional financial institutions. He'd like to consolidate there. But for the most part, he is saying, you know what? We need to go the status quo with Shinzo Abe and continue on with these easing policies.
I mean, what's his biggest challenge on the economy?
Getting the economy going. I mean, right now, obviously, some of these lifelines for the economy to help companies and people weather the coronavirus outbreak has been the priority over stimulating the economy. But at some point, they're going to have to make a change. They're going to have to go from lifelines to stimulating the economy again. Look, that last VAT hike that I mentioned earlier was so ill-timed. It came in October of last year. 2 months later, we had the coronavirus lockdown. GDP has shrunk every quarter since. They have big, big challenges on the economic front.